Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. My name's Emily and I hope you're as excited about this yoga practice as I am. So today we're going to spend a little time working on opening our hips. So our hips are ball and socket joints, so our hips can move in lots of different directions. So as you're moving through your different mobility, make sure that you're working in a space that's safe for you and that feels good. So we're actually going to start seated. Feel free to place some blocks or blankets underneath the hips. And as we find our seat, we want to have a nice neutral spine. Our spine is lengthened tall, and we have our ears stacked over our shoulders and our shoulders stacked over our hips. Rising those hips up on those blankets, blocks, pillows, whatever you have, really can make a difference, especially if you have tight hips or tight hamstrings. So we'll begin by closing the eyes in this neutral seat, finding our long posture. And start to bring our awareness to our breath. Feeling our breath enter and exit our body without judgment, but acknowledgement. This might be the first time you've really paid attention to your breath today. And if you're finding in your seat you're really uncomfortable, feel free to lie down instead. As we continue to bring our awareness to our breath, let's start to acknowledge any thoughts, any feelings. And we're not here to judge those thoughts or feelings, we're simply acknowledging that they exist. Continuing to sit nice and tall. And continuing to allow our breath just to enter and exit our body without stress, without tension. As you continue to become more aware of your breath, start to focus on the breath as it enters the body. Maybe feeling the cool air in the nostrils slowly warm and become moistened as the air travels down into the lungs. And as you exhale, feel the breath leave the body. It's warmer than it was before. We'll use our breath throughout our practice today. So anytime you're feeling out of breath, or if you're feeling stuck or uncomfortable, return to your breath. It's always there for you. And there's no right, there's no wrong way to breathe here. We're just taking long, full breaths that are nourishing ourselves and setting ourselves up for a productive yoga practice. And as you feel ready, let's start to bring our awareness back into our bodies, taking it away from our breath and just noticing where and how our bodies are feeling. Maybe you feel the feet or the hips pressing into the mat or the floor. Maybe you feel that long, tall spine. Maybe your hips are starting to complain a little bit, and we're just acknowledging, we're not judging anything that we're feeling. So we'll start to add a little bit of movement into our bodies. I like to start with some very gentle hip circles. So I'm holding onto my knees because I'm sitting in a cross or cross-legged posture. You can sit however you'd like here, of course. And as you start to bring some movement into the body and in these gentle circles, we start to notice maybe one hip is feeling a little bit more open than the other. And it's just a simple awareness. There's no judgment. Let's return to center and then start to add movement in the opposite direction. Again, these circles can start small and grow larger as your body feels ready for them to grow larger. You can hold on if you want to. You can leave those hands free. It's just a place to start to explore movement into the hips, into the spine, into our shoulders. And then when you're ready, let's return to center. And we'll take our fingertips in whatever posture you're sitting in. Just walk those fingertips forward, rounding the back, letting the chin tuck. You can add a gentle sway side to side if that feels good here. And then returning to center, walk those hands back in toward the body, and we'll switch the leg that's in front. So if you're simply sitting in hero pose, those legs tucked underneath you, you just stay right where you are. So let's start to move in circles again. And you might notice that this time through, it feels awkward at first having that opposite leg on top. But you're letting the body explore movement, especially if this is the first movement of your day. You always want to be gentle and a little curious. And then when you're ready, return to center. And let's move in the opposite direction. Always exploring with the breath. So no matter what pose we're in, no matter how upside down, twisted, or pretzel-like we may feel, we always want to have our breath as a part of that practice. So we don't want to hold the breath. We never want the breath to become a place of tension in our practice. Let's return to center once again. Walk those fingertips forward, rounding the back. And again, you can add that gentle sway side to side if that feels good for you. And then when you're ready, come back to center. Walk those hands back in. And we'll take our feet as wide or wider than the hips. So my legs are about 2 feet apart. My feet are about 2 feet apart. I'm leaning back on my hands. And I'm just starting to, as I call it, windshield wipering. I realize there's a cat hair on me, a bit of cat hair. Windshield wipering those legs from side to side. So as I windshield wiper, I press my heels in. And then I start to massage into the glutes. Again, always finding the breath. I'm never holding my breath in our practice today. And then coming back to center, place the feet together, lift myself up, and I'm just letting my legs fall open. I'm not pressing them open. And I'm just simply lifting through my chest. Letting my spine be nice and long, taking weight into the hands, and letting the hips just start to release on their own. Good, and then come back to center. We'll roll ourselves back onto our mats. So take the time here, activating the core as we slowly lower down. Breath stays even. And as we lower down, we're using the core to release us slowly. Good. Let's plant the right leg on the mat and lift the left leg up to the sky. We'll do some ankle circles. So I'm just drawing some circles with my foot, other direction. Pointing in, flexing my toes. And then from here, I'm going to turn my my toes to the left corner of the room. My arms are out to the side. I'm just gonna let that leg float off to the side and just exploring my range of motion, coming back up through center. Turn my toes to the right corner and then crossing midline. I won't be able to go very far because of my right leg, and then just coming back up. Let's switch legs. So plant left foot down, take right leg to sky, and we'll start to take our foot in some circles. And other direction. I hear some snap, crackles, and pops. I'm not sure if you can hear that. And point and flex my toes. Here I take my toes to the right corner of the room, keeping my left hip and shoulder locked into the mat. I just explore again through my range of motion, come back up through center. Turn toes to the left corner and take my leg across. Coming back up to center. I'll plant both feet on the mat, pressing my heels in, slowly peeling up into bridge. As I exhale, I release and peel back down. One vertebrae at a time. Inhale, lifting up, holding my inner thighs in toward each other. So if I have a block, if you have a block at home, you're welcome to place it between the legs as we move in and out of bridge. So our hips have lots of motion. They can make circles, they can extend forward and back, they can rotate internally and externally. But they're important for all of our movement because they're connected to our torso. So sometimes as we move into the hips, we start to feel some resistance. And so we don't want to fight that resistance. We just want to acknowledge and accept that that's where our bodies are today. So the next time we lift up, we'll just stay here and press the heels in a little bit more. I've pulled my toes off the mat to really rock into my heels. And then I start to lift my hips a little bit more using my glutes and hamstrings, making sure my knees are staying in line. Release the toes back down as my chest starts to draw up toward my chin. Now from here, I'm imagining I'm ripping my mat in half. I'm pressing my feet and my shoulders into the mat in opposite directions. Not holding that breath. And then slowly releasing back down, one vertebrae at a time. Just imagining every single one moving. And then releasing down, drawing those knees into the chest, guiding my legs in some circles, just releasing any tension that may have built in the low back, other direction. And then coming to center, extending my legs now up to the sky. So I activated my hamstrings just now. Now keeping my toes flexed toward my face in dorsiflexion, I'm just gonna ski or skate my legs along the ceiling, keeping my hips planted. This is starting to release into my hamstrings a little bit more, and I'm noticing that my left hamstring feels a little tighter than my right today. Again, I'm not judging, I'm just aware of it so that I can move with caution and awareness. Good, drawing my knees now to my armpits, soles of feet to sky for a little happy baby. And babies don't sit still, they rock around, they wiggle. So let yourself wiggle if that feels good. And then coming back towards center, let's extend the right leg out on the mat. So my hands are gonna plant. My left knee is drawn in. I'm gonna start to draw some circles. I'm gonna do 3 circles in each direction with my left leg. So these circles are giving me just an awareness of my mobility on each side. So switch directions, knee up, out, and around. And I notice that I hear a snap, crackle, and pop in this direction, but I didn't on the other side. And that's just how my body is today. Releasing that leg down, drawing right knee into chest. And we'll start with circles. So make sure that whichever direction you're drawing those circles, that you move in both directions, 3 in each, clockwise or counterclockwise, and then other way, 3. Good. From here, I'm going to cross my ankles and just start to rock forward and back. I'm not reaching all the way to the back of my head, and I'm not sitting all the way up either, or standing. I'm just rocking back and forth, getting that back, a little massage, and then I rock up to seated. I'll flip around to all fours. Wrists are under shoulders, knees are under hips. I'm just gonna start by swaying those hips side to side. And as I sway my hips, I really start to activate pressing my hands into the mat. And that pressure through the hands gives me the ability to activate my core. As I rock my hips side to side, I really start to press in through my shins as well, almost to the point where I feel like I could leap off of my yoga mat. Returning to center, reaching and lengthening through the crown of the head, belly button draws in towards spine. A little spinal alignment here. Start pressing that left shin in and then extending right leg out. I can also, if I choose, extend my left arm at the same time. Now I'm trying to keep my core super steady and exhale, release back down. Inhale as my hands press and my right shin presses into mat. I'll extend left leg. Same thing, I have that option of right arm extending. Exhale, coming back down. So you have the choice of moving both limbs at the same time if you'd like, or simply moving just the arm or just the leg. Inhale, extend, exhale, release. So as I press my hand and shin into the mat, I'm using that to keep my core stable and strong so that nobody could really tell, if they were just to look at my belly button, that I'm extending my limbs. Good, releasing back down. I'm gonna sit back on my heels, walk my fingertips out in front of me for extended child's pose. Finding my breath. And then walking my hands to the left side of my mat. I'll let my hips drop toward the right. Walking my hands to the right, dropping my hips toward the left. Returning to center, lifting up to my forearms. I'm going to bring my knees as wide as the edge of my mat. Big toes stay together. Sinking my hips down. I'm gently going to rock my body side to side. So we did release the inner thighs a little bit already. We're going to release them a little bit more as I rock side to side. My belly starts to come down between my thighs. My hips open just a little more. Settling into the center, walking my fingertips as far forward as I'm comfortable with. As I inhale, I'm going to let my chin and chest move toward the mat. And as I exhale, I'll round my upper back so my forehead comes to the mat. So I'm not just moving my neck, I'm also moving into the thoracic part of my spine, which doesn't have a lot of mobility, so it's a subtle movement. Exhale, chin and chest come down. Forehead releases. And the next time I inhale, chin and chest release down to the mat. I'm pressing in through my hands to let my hips sink back deeper. And then from here, rising back up, returning to all fours, walking my hands underneath my shoulders. I'm going to start by pressing that left shin into the mat and extending the right leg out. As I exhale, right knee comes toward my right elbow. And as I inhale, I take my right leg out, across to the outside of my mat. Exhale, curling in. Inhale, extending open. So we'll do 5 of these. And on my next one, which is my 5th one, I'll stay here, tuck my toe under, plant my foot down, and just gently rock back and forth. I'm feeling a lot of warmth in my calf, back to all fours. Switching sides, pressing into that right shin, extending the left leg, left knee to left elbow. As I exhale, inhale, toe out and across. Exhale, knee crunches. Inhale, out and across. Letting my breath guide my movement. And this last fifth one, I'll take my toe, planting it down, and then once again gently rocking forward and back. Saying a little hello to that calf, a little hello through my left hip. Returning to all fours, tucking my toes under, sitting back just for a quick toe stretch. Now, not everybody likes the way this feels, which I understand. But if it's painful, feel free to keep yourself lifted or even weight in the fingertips. Our toe health is really important, and our poor toes are shoved into shoes 90% of the time. So just sitting here for one more breath in our toe stretch. And then as you feel ready, slowly walk forward. And then if that feels okay for you, coming up for toe balance. Now, if your knees don't like deep flexion, by all means, don't do this, and you'll just come up to standing. So toe balance is exactly as it sounds. We're balancing on the ball of foot, and the toes are doing so much proprioception. They're super aware. As I inhale, I'm going to bring myself all the way up to Tadasana. Exhale, hands come down through heart center. And as I release those hands forward, let's take a cleansing breath for our first standing pose of the day. In my Tadasana, I feel strong. The pose name is mountain. So my feet are rooted deeply into the earth. The crown of my head is surrounded by clouds. But the wind doesn't affect the stability of my body. My feet are firmly planted underneath my hips, maybe a little narrower, maybe a little wider, depending on your stance. My crown is lengthening taller and taller. You're always welcome to close the eyes and just experience your body in Tadasana. It seems like a transitory pose, but it really is so important. It's our foundation. And then as I feel ready, bringing my hands into heart center. Inhale, lifting the arms back to sky. If you're not at the front of your mat, step there. And as you exhale, dive forward, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, half lift to monkey. We're going to find a flat back, long spine. Hands can rest on shins, on thighs, mat or block. Exhale, releasing back down, and we'll slide our left leg back. Big step, lowering down to that left knee. Patting under that left knee if you'd like. As we exhale, rock back. Inhale, rock forward. As I'm moving between my extended leg and my lifting heart, I'm also getting maybe a little cat and cow in my spine too, rounding and tucking my chin if that feels good. Inhale, lifting head, lifting heart. This is your chance to explore movement. The days of this pose has to look this way are long gone. Instead, the pose should feel good. The next time you rock forward, go ahead and stay there. Walk the hands up that left leg. We'll take our left arm to, up your right leg. Let's take our left arm to sky. My right hand stays planted on my right leg as I reach up and away, breathing into this left side rib. I'm not rotating or twisting my spine. I'm just lengthening from hip all the way to fingertip. Inhale, come back to center. We'll take a twist. I'll turn my back to you as my left elbow comes to the outside of my right knee. Hands can come together as I turn and gaze over my right shoulder. Inhale, coming back to center, framing my right foot, tuck my left toe to come up and step, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, lifting up, to mountain. Exhale, we'll sit back this time into chair, Utkatasana. Inhale, rising back up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift to monkey. And we're not judging, we're just noting. Maybe there's a difference between the legs as one is warmed a little more. Stepping right leg back, lowering down to right knee. Check that that left knee is stacked over my left ankle. And then as I exhale, I rock back. Inhale, rocking forward. Moving back and forth with breath. The next time I rock forward, I stay there with my left knee over my ankle, walking my hands up the left thigh. Right arm lifts to sky. My hips stay sunk down and slightly forward, and then I reach away toward the back wall. Feeling that opening all along the right side of the body, down the hip, into the front of the hip and into the thigh. Inhale, lifting up, right elbow to top or outside of left knee as I once again take a twist, gazing over my left shoulder. Inhale, returning, framing left foot. This time I'll set back to down dog. As I find my down dog, my hands are shoulder width apart. My feet are hip width apart. And my necklace has decided to go into my mouth. So I'm going to pedal my heels down one at a time, lengthening my calf muscles, pressing and letting myself maybe even wiggle a little bit. Dogs do not keep themselves still very long unless they're taking a nap. So let this be a little wiggly, let this be a little playful. Maybe your toes or your hips or your hands need some movement. And then let's find our down dog by bending our knees deeply, reaching the tail like there's a kid pulling your tail toward the wall behind you. And then pressing your hamstrings toward that back wall, letting heels fall. Don't hold your breath even though you're upside down. Keep it even and steady. Shifting the weight into the right leg, extend the left leg back behind you, pressing through the ball of the left foot. And then gaze up to the hands, sweep left leg all the way up to your hands. We'll swivel the right foot down at a 45-degree angle or so. And then windmill the arms up and open to warrior two. Inhale, lengthen that front leg. Exhale, bend that knee and deepen. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, deepen. One more time. And this time we'll find and stay in our Viratu, Virabhadrasana, V. Left knee stays over that ankle, arch of the foot, bisected by the heel of the front foot. Shoulder blades squeezing together as I lengthen my spine, just like I did when we first were seated. Feel your breath in your body. Feel the opening in that rotation of this left hip. Starting to straighten my left leg, keeping my feet planted, lengthen fingertips toward my left foot. My right hip is staying square, so I'm not rotating my hips down. I'm keeping them open. Let my left hand fall right arm to sky. The goal is not to reach the ground. The goal is to keep the hips and shoulders square and to feel yourself open. Almost as if you were vulnerable in this pose. Triangle feels very vulnerable to me. Keep breathing, shoulders relaxed, spine long. And then from here, we'll windmill the arms down to the right foot. Step back to down dog. Return to pedaling those heels, just letting them move one at a time. As you're pedaling your heels, notice where in your body you're feeling release. Notice where in your body You might feel tightness or tension. No judgment, we're just letting go. And then, when you're ready, let's bring the weight into the left leg. Extend that right leg back behind. Square hips, pressing through the ball of the right leg. And then gaze up to the hands. We'll sweep that right foot all the way up. Swivel left heel down and windmill those arms up and open to Viratu on the other side. As we inhale, lengthen that leg. Exhale, bend that right knee to deepen. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, deepen. One more time, lengthen. And deepen. Stay here and breathe. Shoulder blades draw together. Strong, tall spine. Make sure you can see the big toe of the right foot. From here, start to straighten that right leg. Keeping hips and shoulders square. Lengthen your fingertips. Reach, 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 reach. Keeping that openness. Right hand comes down. Left arm can lift, or you can always take that left hand out if your shoulder doesn't appreciate it. My shoulders are relaxed. My shoulder blades are drawn together. And my spine is long, reaching my crown of the head toward the wall. Releasing those hands down, walking to the long edge of your mat. Outer edges of the feet turn to parallel. And we'll start to get a little wiggly, a little dancey again. Let yourself release. If it feels good just to hang out in the center, go ahead and do so. But if it feels good to walk over to one side, walk to the other side, let your body decide. Your body has an intelligence. Your body knows what it's been through. And so give yourself permission to open up, to let go of those preconceived notions, and to allow your body to guide movement. As you feel ready, start to settle into center. Pressing those feet into the mat like you're going to rip your mat in half. Don't worry, you won't rip your expensive yoga mat. And then walk your fingertips out away from you. Hands are shoulder width apart, just like they would be in down dog. And as I'm ripping my mat in half, I'm pressing through my palms and letting my hips shift back to the wall behind me. My head dangles down. My breath stays even and steady, but nothing else about this pose is steady. I'm pressing through my feet, I'm pressing through my hands. And then starting to walk my hands back in toward my body, rising up. And then walking my hands over toward my right foot. I'll step back to down dog. And then round down to my knees. And allow myself to rest in child's pose, Balasana. Allow your breath to return, if it's activated, to a place of calm and a place of comfort. And then when you're ready, slowly rise up. We'll come back up to down dog. So extend the arms out in front of you. Tuck your toes, hips up and back, returning to your down dog. Shifting the weight into the right foot, let's extend the left leg. But this time we're going to let that left leg open so the knee reaches to sky, shoulders stay square. So my hips have rotated open, but my shoulders have returned to squareness. You can take a few circles here if that feels good for you, or maybe it feels good just to hang out.
Gazing all the way up to my hands, I'm going to draw my right knee up toward, my left knee up toward my left wrist and my shin toward my right wrist. I'm gently rocking forward and back. This is my left leg that's in front. My right leg is back. And as I rock back and forth, I'm feeling my outer left hip say hello. I'm not going to release down. I'm just going to stay in this high king pigeon pose. And then release my right foot back down. Set my left foot back to meet my right, returning to down dog. Shift my weight to my left foot, extend right leg this time. And then let my right knee lift up to sky. My hips are open, but my shoulders are squared. Again, feel free to take circles if that feels better for you or feels nourishing. Gazing up to the hands, right knee toward right wrist, ankle toward left wrist. My shin is moving to parallel. Now I don't need anything else propped underneath my right hip as I just rock forward and back, using my core. My core is active. I'm pressing through my palms as I rock back and forth on my left toe. My right hip is screaming at me a lot more than my left hip today. And I'm just releasing that outer right hip on its own. Good. Posting that left toe, step right leg back to meet left. Returning to down dog. And then slowly walking my feet forward to the front of my mat to where I find myself in Uttanasana. Forward fold. Feel free to clasp elbows. Feel free to rest hands on mat or block. And as always, you can stay static or you can be wiggly. As long as you're not bouncing or pulling, movement is generally really good for the fascia, really good for the lymphatic drainage system. Soften those knees, return to center. Inhale, rise up. And exhale, bring those hands down through heart center. Let's take a cleansing breath. Inhale through the nose. Exhale with that big ha. Release hands, release palms. So we're going to find a standing balance pose, a couple of them actually. So I will not be mirroring you. This is my right leg. I'm going to lift up my left heel. And I'm just going to start to rotate that left leg open and then come back. Feel free to hold on to a wall if you need a wall for balance. Feel free to use a chair, whatever. So I'm just rotating that leg open and coming back. Open and then coming back. The next time I rotate that left leg open, I'll stay there. I can even use my left hand to help open through that left leg. My foot can come to ankle, to calf, or to thigh, but definitely not on my knee joint as I find Vrikshasana tree pose. Now tree pose, I'm pressing my thigh back against my foot or my calf back against my foot. If you feel ready, allow your branches to grow. So it's pretty calm here today in Los Alamos. So I'm going to stay fairly steady in my tree pose. Shoulder blades are drawn together. Chest is lifted, spine is tall. Ooh, maybe it's a little windier than I thought. So when you feel ready, from your tree pose, release your hands down, and we're going to take that left foot to cross the ankle on top of the knee. So it's above my knee joint. So same thing, use a wall if you need to. You can start with hands on hips. You can have arms extended or hands at heart center. So many options. As you exhale, let those hips sink down, let the chest stay lifted. Inhale, rise up, exhale, sink hips down. Inhale, rise up. Now the next time you find your standing pigeon or one-legged chair, your decision there, breathe, hold here, but don't hold your breath. Good, inhale, lifting back up, planting that left foot down, rotate the right ankle a few times, release tension from that right foot. All those proprioceptive nerves and energies are keeping that leg active while we were standing on it. So let's switch to the other side, switching the energy into my left foot, really anchoring that left foot to stand tall. Come to my right toe or ball of foot. Inhale, leg open. Exhale, come back to neutral. So I'm just rotating open. I'm actively using my glutes of my right leg, my right hip, to open and close that leg. It's kind of like standing clamshells. Now the next time I open that leg using those muscles, my right foot can come to calf, ankle, or thigh, but again, not that knee joint. Hands to heart center. Continuing to stand tall, and if you feel ready, allow your branches to grow. Vrikshasana, tree pose. So often we want to hold our breath to hold a balance pose, but that's the opposite of what we need. We need lots of oxygen moving into our body. We need that energy, that prana moving through our body. And we need our core working. So just belly button drawing in, pelvic floor lifting. And then release down. So we'll take now that right ankle on top of left knee. So same thing as the other side. I'm keeping my right ankle flexed and my ankle just above the knee. That's to prevent my foot from sickling, and that's also to keep my knee safe. So hands wherever you like them to be as we exhale, sink down. Inhale, rise back up. Exhale, sinking down. Inhale, lifting up. And if you'd like to on this third one, stay here. Hands are wherever you'd like them to be. Extended at hip or in Anjali Mudra. Long spine. Outer left hip is saying hello. And then inhale, rising back up, planting that right foot down. Maybe rotate the left ankle a few times. Inhale, taking both arms back up to the sky. As we exhale, hinge at hip, Uttanasana. Inhale, half lift to monkey. And then as we exhale, let's step back onto all fours. Shift the legs to one side and come to seated. So we'll spend the rest of class lying on our backs and setting ourselves up for Shavasana. Feel free to grab a blanket if you need one. And as we lie ourselves back, take your time getting there. So we don't want to rush. Just as like we did at the beginning of class, I'm using my core to slowly lower me down. And then eventually coming to lying on my back, where we began class, with the knees drawn in toward chest. I'll do a few knee circles to start. Circles in the other direction. And then I'm going to plant my right foot on the mat, cross my left leg over. So just as we did for our standing pigeon, my ankle is flexed and my ankle is just above the knee. So hands out to the side, gently rocking side to side. It's a smaller movement. And if you have a lot of mobility in that outer hip, you might not feel anything here. So feel free, if you like, to draw that stack of knees into chest. Now your knee is going to want to come in toward the chest. Use the hand if you need to keep that knee away from the body. As I rock side to side, I notice I have kind of sticky points, if you will, where my tension in my piriformis especially is kind of saying, I'm here, or there's tension. And so I'm moving gently
through those sticking points. Returning to center. Now I'm going to slide my knees on top of each other, reaching up for my shins and drawing the stack of shins in toward my chest. I press my hips down to really help release from that piriformis. This might be too much for your body. If it is, you can go back to any of these other places. Now I notice that when I press my hips back down as opposed to rise them up, I feel a big difference. Keeping these knees stacked, left arm out to the side, and I'm going to take this twist toward the right, turning and gazing at my left hand. Slowly unwinding, planting the left foot on the mat, crossing the right leg over. So once again, I take my time here. Because even though we have bilateral symmetry, that doesn't mean that we are bilaterally symmetric. If you are right-handed, your right hip might often be tighter than your left. So we're just always moving with caution. We're always moving in a place of, how does this feel? Checking in with the body. And if there's a spot that you just want to kind of hang out and breathe into, always feel free to do that. At the end, we'll cross our knees, reaching up for our shins, drawing that stack of knees in as my hips lower down. And then once again, take that gentle rock, side to side. Keeping these knees stacked, right arm out to the side, and this time I'll take my knees to the left, turn and gaze to your right fingertips. And then when you're ready, slowly unwind. So we'll take our feet as wide as the edges of the mat, arms out to the side, kind of in a letter A. And when we'll windshield wiper our legs side to side, just like we did in the beginning of class, but this time from a reclined position. Noticing that maybe it feels really good to hang out for a second or two. And making this your last side. Return to center. Draw the soles of feet together. Let the legs fall open. Now, if you have props at home, blankets or pillows underneath the thighs can feel really good, as well as maybe a little supportive pillow or rolled up blanket underneath the low back or hips. So we'll spend about a minute and a half here in our reclined Baddha Konasana, with the soles of the feet touching, with the legs open and the heart open. We're just absorbing the practice, absorbing the energy that we created and the energy that we've explored, the movements in our body. Now you're welcome to stay here for Shavasana, where you can extend your legs out in front of you. No matter what position or posture you choose, you want to make sure that your body is feeling supported and that you feel comfortable. We never want to spend these last few delicious moments of our time together in a place of discomfort. So grab whatever you need, maybe an eye pillow if you're comfortable using one. You can dim the lights if you haven't already. And as always, since you're at home or in a place not in a yoga studio, you can stay in this Shavasana pose as long as you'd like. I'm not going to rush you out of the studio when we finish up. Feel free to grab a light blanket or a jacket. As we end our movement and find our way into stillness, we can find ourselves kind of cooling off a bit. So take these last few moments to make any adjustments into your posture. Take those wiggles out, as I told my kids before they'd go to bed. Get rid of your wiggles. And as you exhale, feel yourself settling into that stillness in body. Feel free to swallow. Maybe tucking the chin slightly, lengthening through the back of the neck. Maybe draw the shoulder blades together and sink them down, allowing the chest to open just a smidge more. Filling the body in a place of alignment so that the breath can easily travel in and out. And as the breath comes into the body, feel yourself with a sense of renewal. And as the breath leaves the body, feel yourself releasing the things that no longer serve you. Inhaling deep peace and tranquility. Exhaling stress and tension. Inhaling health and well-being. And as you exhale, release disease, release illness and injury. Letting go of any thoughts that come up. Releasing any emotions that arise. And settling into this place of stillness in the body. Quiet in the mind. started to wander, and simply bring it back to that breath. Bring it back to inhaling our prana, our life force. Exhale, releasing, letting go. Give yourself permission to return to this restful, peaceful space whenever you need. And give yourself permission to share this calm and this peace with others through your daily interactions. Especially in a time of so much isolation, those interactions can be so meaningful to others and to ourselves. So as we approach each other and ourselves with a bit of grace and a bit of gratitude, let that gratitude spread throughout your body and begin wiggling your fingers and your toes. Allow a little more vitality into your body and rotate wrists and ankles. And then inviting some big movement, bending knees, bending elbows, maybe even giving yourself a hug. And then slowly press yourself up to seated, allowing the head to hang and to come up very last. Find yourself in the posture that you began class in, seated, using whatever props you need. So even though we might be practicing at a different time and in a different place, let's place the hands together in Anjali Mudra and seal our practice by joining together in 3 Oms. The light in me honors the light within you. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining in this practice with me. I wish you a wonderful day and hope it's filled with grace and gratitude.